I just love that color of your wall, Rachel.
This is a really good blue, James.
Did you see the
James, this is a good blue. Like it's hard to find a blue that's good in the shade, but I don't even know what it is, which is so dumb. This is what my house came with.
Yeah. Isaac hates dark
Oh,
walls, and I want all the walls dark.
yeah. Well, you'd live in the black house, wouldn't
I
you?
would live in the black house.
Welcome to Talk Like a Mother Parenting Autism Podcast. We are Jen, Kim, Rachel, and Jamie. Take a seat at our table as we share with hope, humor, and honesty.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Talk Like a Mother podcast, and we are kind of just coming back from our summer break. It's August now, and so we just went through a series of some replays. I hope you guys listened to those. It was kind of fun to get to rediscuss each episode and give our little backgrounds on it and everything. But yeah, so we decided coming back that we would kind of do a fun Q&A to get us rolling before we get into a new series. We're all here. How was everyone's summer overall?
Great. I just got back from Minnesota with Rachel. Took Kaya there. We had the best trip. We had such a good time. We did so many fun things. Yeah, she had a bucket list, and Rachel made sure to check every one of those off every day. It was a really good trip. So super fun for us.
It's been busy here. We had Jen here, and then prior to that, we did Montana. And then, it's like summer school squished in the middle. Before that, I don't know, somehow we were making it, but it has been like a giant shit show over here. Just consistently struggle bus. I don't know. Summer is not my thing. I keep thinking about Kimmy's answer of in our mental health series recently, she's like, yeah, I'm just waiting to be drinking a hot or an iced tea or whatever, iced coffee in the summertime. I'm like, man, I wish, I don't know. Summer's not it. I'm not that girl.
I don't like the weather. I hate how hot it is. But I have gone a little crazy. I know I'm weird in this, and then this is not a judgmental thing towards any other moms in the world at all. But I do not like my kids going back to school. I actually get uber stressed by it, especially with my kiddos. It's a lot of additional things. It's a lot more people in our lives judging. It's a lot of communication and stuff from teachers, which is great, but also just a constant reminder of everything. But I've gone a bit crazy this summer. I messaged Jen the other day, and I'm like, I'm just gonna have to vent to you. I was just I've been constantly with my children, with just most of the time. I mean, I would say 95% of the time we're together, besides taking my daughter to a play or going out to this. I think me and my husband had one date night all summer. I'm just a little suffocated. So I'm ready to go back and
you're also almost there.
Yeah,
So you're at the 12th week of summer, aren't you?
Yes, we're recording Monday night. We go back Wednesday. So one more.
But you know what I like about summer? I do like the pressure's off.
Yes.
That last year. I mean, Kaya's homeschooled, and I have to be much more diligent this year. I actually have to set up a specific area, and I do plan on doing that. But I just love the ease of summer. I love the not worrying about having to be anywhere, no restrictions with her. I don't know. I do. And I'm like you, James. For me, I'd rather have her home with me just because we've never had a lot of luck. But now she is home with me. So I'll be on the couch with her at the other end. She's like, "Where's mama?" In a full panic now.
Jesse's where are you?
The tether is so short.
And yesterday, I'm like, I'm right here. Yeah. I mean, I love her. I mean, obviously, I love her more than anything in the whole world. But that anxiety that is around being with me 24/7, I'm trying to talk her into school part-time. She's got to get out of this house and go somewhere and go see some other people, So that's my goal, part-time school. Anyway, I'm torn on the summer stuff. But
I know there's good and bad to it. And I love not having the morning rush.
Yes.
But
or making lunches, making freaking school lunches is the base.
Every day. I mean, my husband does it, but call me Wednesday. I'll be happy. I mean, I'm actually thinking about going to see a movie or something by myself in the middle of the day.
Just by yourself.
Wait,
no one to talk to you.
They go back this week?
Yeah, they go back on the 7th.
Get out of town. We didn't even go on our family.
Kimmy hasn't gone vacation
yet.
You jaunt.
Outing or little drive.
A long drive.
Long
There's
one.
nothing
Oh,
to
long-
see behind these seats. Nothing to see behind these seats.
Nothing to see.
Covered.
All right. So for our Q&A, we got some questions, and from what I've surmised, they fall into 3 categories. So some are kind of just fun, silly things about us. Some are about more like parenting, and some are about the actual podcast. So I'm gonna try to mix up, like do one of each until we run out or whatever, to keep it interesting for everyone. So I'll start with something. Should we start with something fun or more serious?
Let's go fun and get warmed up. Oh, you could ask Jen about the 3 meals.
Oh yeah. So we got this question, which Jen really appreciates. You're going out for dinner. What 3-course meals would you choose? Can be from different restaurants. Jen, do you need time to think?
No, I don't need any time to think.
She's like, I printed the menus earlier today.
You mean like a specific place, like a specific meal, or like
No, if you
it's
were
at
having
any
3
any
courses,
three.
like what would be your ideal app and then your ideal entree and your ideal dessert?
So I would start with a Caesar salad, no bacon. Then I would have for my entree, I would have mashed potatoes, hunter chicken, and the vegetable of choice of the day. Yeah, that's a great choice. Yeah.
And what for dessert?
Can't really usually do dessert, but
Let's talk
I
about
do
the
love
Baskin Robbins habit that's been going on. Okay.
it's Rachel
The
Flanagan's
cake.
fault for teaching me how to use the DoorDash and the Instacart.
You're welcome.
I ate a whole cake.
In front of 2 of us that are not eating
we
sugar
witnessed
right
And I
now.
it.
didn't even take it out of the pan. I just took the fork and ate it out of the freaking pan. Because why
Oh my
make another
God.
dish?
So I'm no dessert for me. Shut up.
Mm-mm.
No, but at restaurant, like usually by the time I eat at a restaurant, I usually don't.
Yeah.
This ice cream thing is new. Yeah, I'm full. But I do like a creme brulee. Do you like a creme brulee? Yeah.
I could go so many ways with this.
Oh my God. I'm just going to jump right in. First of all, it's got to be bread from, I'm dieting people. It's got to be bread from Texas Roadhouse with that cinnamon butter. I know that's not technically a course, but I'm making it one. Then I love my apps, which probably I'm always usually doing some kind of buffalo tender.
Yeah.
Unless it's Chili's, then I will do the Southwestern egg rolls and the Chipotle chicken and the cheeseburger sliders. That's one app that you get with 3
Man.
choices.
I love you.
Unless it's the Olive Garden, then I'm going to go with the breadsticks and the salad and the soup. And honestly, I don't really care about the meal as much. I'm definitely more of an app girl. Longhorn Steakhouse, love their spicy bites or their firecracker tortillas. Yeah, I usually get some sort of, usually me and Neil actually split a meal. So I let him choose the meal and then we just split it. And depending on like where we go. So I don't really care about the meal. I'm usually full by the time the meal comes anyways, but I do save room for dessert, which I'd say probably my favorite dessert would be like cheesecake with like strawberries and whipped cream.
I
But I could do that with the brownie. I could do the brownie with the molten chocolate cake as well. As long as it comes with ice cream. If the dessert doesn't come with ice cream and there's chocolate on it, don't want it.
Or so I could be a whore for Mexican food too, because it's my favorite in the whole world. And I had the best chicken chimichanga in my whole life.
Oh, I love it.
Soda.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it was
best.
not a wussy size.
No, I was a champ. It was big. But then I made the mistake of ordering a bunch of additional sides because in Canada you get a little side of sour cream and a little teeny side of guac. Well, in the United States of America, you get a freaking bucket of sauces.
in Minnesota, I'm from the US. Even when I went to Minnesota, I was like, what is with these portion sizes?
And
you
like
guys
I
tried guacamole. I didn't even.
Rachel, what diet are you on? I'm not. Thank you.
Yeah.
Their breakfast is delicious there too. I want to go back just for the Woodbury Cafe.
Woodbury.
I thought of you. Never had it before, but I had Dunkin' Donuts there. I thought of Kimmy.
Rachel, do you have a 3-course meal?
Yes. So, I mean, I can't answer as passionately, but I too am an appetizer girl.
She's not dieting, that's why.
I like a variety of different appetizers, and I will just say that I can like get down with some cheese curds in a Wisconsin bar, or I can go like fancy pants, some like seared ahi tuna. I pretty much can ride anywhere in the middle in the apps department. So I'll just go with. But for the meal, I would go Ribbon Chop House in Livingston, Montana, because it is like we ate there twice on our vacation because it is like slap your mama good. I don't know if they do some sort of like years old seasoning on the griddle where they cook this steak, but it's like they have a bark of pepper and sear. It is just so good. And then the side at that place, like who could care? Because I'm gonna eat that plate clean on the steak department. Then for dessert, I would go to Cafe Latte in St. Paul. So there's like an airline involved, but whatever. This is not what we're talking about. Yeah, totally fine. So I would go to Cafe Latte where they have like the best, most delicious, moist Tres Leche cake of life. It
I
is
love Tres Leche.
so freaking good. Oh, there's these 3 raspberries on top that are like fresh from the farmer. And you could pretty much eat any cake there to go. So I would not be shy about taking like a McIsaac million dessert options or like what she's talking about with these appetizers.
I
would
do
take
love
a-
apples too. I thought we had to give like our ideal meal if we were to go to a restaurant. I'm not going to bore you all with my choices at each restaurant because you know me well enough to know that I have specific choices at every single place I go. But I will say, ladies and gentlemen, Rachel Flanagan got me to a buffet, and there was nothing better than instant mashed potatoes, stovetop stuffing, and a bag lettuce with croutons and ranch. I was in freaking
sunflower seeds.
heaven.
Yeah, she was.
Sunflower seeds.
I
mean,
turn around. I figure,
okay.
you know, there's either a part of her that's either going to lean in or need oxygen. And she got a second helping. I'm just telling you.
She's a champ.
I mean, I myself nonstop. The following day, we'll beat that out after. But it was worth every single ranch bite. It was
Shout
so
out
good.
to the Pizza Ranch in Cottage Grove, Minnesota, owned by our friend and listener Sheila, whose daughter plays baseball with Steve.
And I have to tell you, there's something about a United States Diet Coke. It is a crispy Diet Coke. And I said to Rachel, ours, I don't know if it's you guys put them in the plastic cups, we have paper, and it really does. We have paper straws. We don't have plastic straws. And it does change the taste of things. It really, really does. But our Diet Coke is very flat. Rachel can attest. I was just ordering Diet Cokes on Uber. Just Diet Cokes from McDonald's.
Hey, do you need anything to drink? I need a big Diet Coke. And when it gets here, it's like one of those, I need 2 hands about it. And she's just like, I mean, it was the hottest day of the summer and we were sitting by a bonfire. Whatever.
Can I just add a funny little story really quick? Me and Kara went out to eat after we got our hair done, and we went to this new restaurant. Not new, we've never gone there, a restaurant around here. And I'm just such a snob. Like the second you say you don't have Diet Coke, I want to go to a different restaurant. Like I can't help it. Especially in the summer. I love a fountain Diet Coke. There's nothing better with my meal.
Nothing
so
better.
We come in there and I go, oh, do you have Coke or Pepsi? And he goes, Coke, I think. And now, meanwhile, this guy's doing the bar. Okay, so you're working behind the bar. And I look at Karen and I go, he doesn't know he's working behind the bar. This is so weird. So then he comes with my Diet Coke. And then I quickly realize it ain't Diet Coke. It's cola. It's that off-brand shit. It ain't the same.
Oh,
this is
that's
my
what you didn't know.
People, if you own a restaurant, cut somewhere else. Do not cut on the Diet Coke.
Yeah. Who has that? Shasta on tap? I mean, are you kidding me? Splurge.
So there's one restaurant we go to, it's kind of like a more upscale-ish restaurant. And I'm sorry, you could afford freaking Coke. Don't know this cola bullshit. This other restaurant is like a more smaller branded restaurant. So I guess I can see, but I was like, no, this is so disappointing. I'd rather Diet Pepsi, and that's saying a lot.
For mine, there's so many things that come to mind, which is really bad. And right now, I'm not eating very much sugar or carbs for diet reasons, but also my eczema is like going away. This is how much I know that I have a problem with sugar because like I am craving like rice in general. But you guys know I love my Hawaiian barbecue. Appetizer wise, I really love like crab wontons or cheese wontons, even better.
Any
like Kimmy says, those rolls from Texas Roadhouse are the best.
We don't have that restaurant here.
So good. But I would take just everything you guys said. So good. I don't know. But I'm really craving Kung Pao chicken from PF Chang's because I worked at a restaurant for years called Payway, which was like the fast version of PF Chang's. And I just love that.
You guys have that there? I didn't know that was
Payway here too.
PF Chang's.
Yeah, PF Chang's. It's like a chain. And we were supposed to go there for our anniversary dinner the other night, and we didn't. We went to a nicer restaurant, which I didn't think we'd have time for, but we did it. But I'm still kind of craving that, like just really salty food.
I know.
And then dessert, I really love, what's that thing called? It's that French pastry with all the layers. I want to feel it's like mille feuille or whatever. It's like a
You guys are way fancier than I am. I don't even know what any of these
so
desserts you're talking
good.
about.
Are you talking about that crustish, almost like Neapolitan, that's like crusty layers of?
Yeah, and it has like usually a chocolate and white like zigzag is the top.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that thing so much. But any pie, pastry, give me puff pastry, anything. You could put puffy pastry with some Nutella on it. Give me that. Anyway, just
Can I
everything
tell
you guys
you?
have said just killed me inside.
This is leftover gnocchi soup from Olive Garden. Best soup on the planet.
How big is that? Jesus, Martha.
And huge. It was amazing.
I love the
will
gnocchi. I
tell
love
you,
the gnocchi
Jane,
soup too. That's really
because
good.
you like a wonton, that I used to make Nutella wontons sprinkled with shugs. Oh, girl.
We used to do that at Payway, like behind the
Yeah.
counter, because we had the stuff and we would do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I've lost my questions now because we got so.
Yeah, we can go on and on and on.
I
and
know.
on.
Get the food out of the way because this is also a food podcast. We've come to find. Just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll do a podcast question. How do you ladies create an episode from start to finish? I feel like I could answer that real quick. So really simple. We meet probably 3 or 4 times a year. We come up with ideas. No, we usually come up with like a series idea for the series, and then we schedule out like how we're going to do that. If that involves interviews, we figure out who's going to reach out to like whoever for the interview. And then we just schedule with that person and we meet on Zoom and we record just because so far we've figured that's the easiest and what is really easy for most people who we're interviewing if it's an interview. And yeah, we usually get on first and talk for like an hour about life and stuff. And then we record the podcast and then we stay on later and talk about life and stuff and then complain about how tired we are. But it's our own faults because we just talked so much. And then I edit the podcast and put it up. And that's pretty much it. It's really, I'm sure there's more difficult ways of doing it and better ways, but that's just how we do it. We've kind of just made up how to do it on our own. So nothing crazy. And then we publish the episode. Sometimes it's literally, I will say we've gotten pretty good about planning ahead, but there have been some days like, okay, what are we going to do tomorrow? And we usually have some ideas in our back pocket or a list of ideas somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, here's how do you advocate for your child's needs at school or in the community? Anyone want to go? I can start. For Jesse, it's just like a as need basis or what kind of pops up, I guess. I think I often go into things really nervous and overthinking them. And I think because of that, a lot of times the situation turns out better than I imagined, which is usually the worst case scenarios. But there have been things we've run into or just things in general. Like I will face like when I used to think of like an advocate, I thought of like someone who like wore tag and was like going to every like political thing and like speaking up for our kids and stuff, which is great for people who do that and amazing. But like I haven't got to that point yet and I don't have the wherewithal and the energy to do that right now because I'm just in it with my own child. But me and my husband have learned that we really need to be involved. Like I talked about before, like immediately when we started the school, my husband like joined the PTA and everyone on staff knows who we are. Like we just make sure we're involved and known so that people feel almost awkward or bad if they do not include my child or they don't think of the kids on the spectrum and things like that. But otherwise it's like if big things pop up with Jess where I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Then I try not to be hot-headed about it, even though I'm feeling that way inside, but I'm just very clear and concise. And I'm like, we need to discuss this. And I really like to nip things in the bud as soon as they happen, because I mean, you guys know I will perseverate on it and I'll like get really anxious and worried about it. So I'm just like, okay, we have to talk to this person or someone needs to talk to that person. We need to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think it changes as they grow into different stages and like age. Like I know how I advocated for her when she was younger and I don't have to do it as much now because I feel like everything's kind of like set into place for the most part. But one of the things I try to do is like, if I have to speak up, like say we're in public or something, I try to do it before something happens, if possible. It's not always possible, kind of preventively. So it's like, there's already like that kind of explanation and stuff out there. for her. And obviously if there's, ever an incident or something going on, I kind of always just explain. With her schooling now, well, not schooling, she's in day hab, and it's a little more frustrating because when she was in school, it was like her teacher was a special education teacher. There was a psychologist there was therapists there, speech therapist, occupational therapist. People just were more knowledgeable. They were more knowledgeable than I was. You know what I mean? So it's like I obviously on Alyssa individually, I didn't really have to advocate for her because they kind of advocated for her. But in the program she's in now, it doesn't quite seem to be that way. It seems to be that they're less knowledgeable than I am, and the direct care workers are less knowledgeable than the people running the place, and they are definitely less knowledgeable than me. And that is just can be frustrating sometimes because it's like talking to a wall, basically. They see where when she was younger, she was in a class with like pretty much very similar needs that she had or in very similar diagnosis. Obviously there could be like some kids that were like more verbal or less verbal, stuff like that, but they were all kind of in the same range where like now she's in a setting that could be very different. Like there could be, it's not just autism, there's different disabilities, there's much different ranges, which is not that that's a bad thing, but I think it's like makes them hard to like understand somebody who's completely nonverbal, and relies on others to communicate. So it's like, I feel like I'm constantly having to be like, okay, yeah, but she doesn't understand this. And it's like, I try to be nice about it, but it just, because obviously when you're not, it doesn't really get you anywhere. But like also persistent to be like, okay, like, well, she doesn't understand this. Or like, this is, they like to be like, well, like, what do we do in this situation? And it's like, you just get through the situation. Like it's just hard because like when she was younger, the teachers could get through things better than I'd be asking them, now it's kind of like, it's been like a role reversal. So sometimes that can just be frustrating, but like, obviously, you just have to kind of speak up even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it concerns anything to do with like, their safety and stuff like that.
Well, that's what I was going to say is how I advocate has changed over the years. But the one thing, and I always say it's really how you approach people, but I'm a really big believer about kind of what you said, can be preemptively, maybe saying, hey, my daughter's autistic. Like when she was younger, when we would travel, I didn't tell them this time, which is actually, I think the first time I've not told a flight attendant on a flight, just heads up, my daughter's autistic, just so that they're aware. But I have no problem asking for help. Like an example, I had TSA pre-scheduled, but the moment we got into MSP, I immediately found a Delta worker and said, hi, we're meeting with TSA. My daughter has autism. I'm going to need a little help navigating, even getting to TSA. So like, I'm a big one that will ask for the help now ahead of time to preempt, just so that there's not a stumble in things,
We have like a million modes. Like for Celie, we as a family are really, really lucky that she has the setting that she does with regard to school. And in that way, I'm like Kim was describing, like learning, but contributing, but also learning. And it's for us really collaborative. We're like, I can say this is the thing we're kind of seeing and working on at home. And then her therapist is going to connect with me about that. And then they'll connect with her teacher. And it sort of like keeps everything in motion with the team at school and like her direct support people. But man, if we are in public, I can feel the blinders in my own world kind of go up. And I'm just so clear about how she's doing, what's going on, that I'm not necessarily like waving a flag, like, or looking for conversation necessarily. But recently, we've had a couple of situations that happened in public, and I'll tell you what I like to have answered is not exactly what happened. Like I screamed at people where I think my spit, my like passionate, firing spit landed on people I do and don't know. So I'll just say that. Like it's not always easy for me to keep my cool when stuff's like super sideways, but there's a lot more of life that happens in the middle ground for us. And in that time, we're reaching out to police constantly. Our neighbors we're trying to connect with.
If we go into a restaurant and the music's really loud, I will very nicely ask, hey, would you mind turning that down a little bit? Just a little bit. Just little things that Maybe before
think
I'd be a
there's
little
like
shy to
these,
ask or be almost like turn it down, like, you know what I mean? And then there's finding your groove and how you kind of navigate it.
I think there's elements of like proactive stuff that all of us do and have to do, and that'll adjust
Yeah.
and change. But there's also like outreach that each of us do in our own way, like talking about it when you're in the store, or in my case, never going to a store and talking to the delivery people, or whatever it is. Like there's outreach, and then there's advocacy in the moment. And I don't know. It's
And-
different all the time.
And I just want to say in general, I think there's a time and place for all of us in different areas for advocacy. And there's times that you just don't want to take on that extra burden. I feel like we're always advocating for kids and we're always protecting and doing what we believe is best for our kids in a moment. But there's just some times where I'm like, I don't want to go out and have to educate the world about my child. Like there, I mean, obviously we do this podcast, which I think is a big part of advocating for all of us, because hopefully some people that don't have children on the spectrum or children with disabilities listen to our podcast and can understand a little better. But like sometimes I'm just like, I just am not in the mood. Or I was recently talking to one of our friends about like, you know, a awkward situation what happened with Amelie and a kid on the playground with, I mean, Jesse was there, and the kid asked a question about Jesse, and it just kind of broke my heart because you could tell that she felt so awkward about the situation. She just kind of ran off and walked away. I mean, she's 6 years old. And I was just like, yeah, I don't want to go up to her and be like, oh, you should have advocated in this moment. You should have told them about your brother. And it's like, you know what? It's totally also okay to be sad and a little embarrassed that people are talking about your brother that way,
Or
asking
just
you
even
questions.
missing the teachable moment.
Yes,
You know,
like
yeah.
you don't have to teach everyone all the time. Also, I just
Mhm.
want to put that out there because I think, yes, we can try, and sometimes we're educating without even trying because our children are loud or whatever. But there's also times where I'm like, it's not my job to like try to constantly make everyone in the world be kind.
I was describing recently that we've had this hard summer, you know, and then I was kind of alluding to this, like in the moment in public was really bad. And I wrote this sort of like rose-colored glasses post about it, like saying this thing happened, but also people came to our aid and whatever. And the next day, a friend of mine who does not have a child with a disability connected with me, and she's like, Rachie, the post that you wrote, I was thinking about it when I heard this wild sound at Target. It was like primal. And I was like, oh no.
You're like, wait, I wasn't at Target.
I was like, I wasn't in Bozeman. Yeah. Yeah. She's like, I heard it. And then I saw this mom sort of navigate her cart down into my aisle. And I could see by what she was doing that she was trying to figure out like what to do next. And that sound was her kid. And right as I'm putting that together, I said, do you need any help? As her son walks around the corner into the aisle, and he's like 25 and he is dysregulated. And Lodi's like, honestly, like it was such a commotion. I would have been scared, but having just read what I assume happened to you, it made it seem like it isn't always big, but sometimes it's big and it's huge and it's loud and it's hard to look at. And the people need help, you know?
Well, I just reshared this one post that I wrote about being in a bookstore that I wrote a long time ago. And I don't know why. That was when I first started writing. I
remember that post. I remember
even
when you wrote that post.
Yeah, I don't even necessarily love that post, but I maybe because it's so raw and I was first writing. I mean, I wouldn't even say it was that raw and real, but every time I've shared that post, someone has written in the comments or to me, they're like, this made me think about like just what you were saying, Rachel, about like if I'm in public and a kid's misbehaving that, or from my perspective, a child's misbehaving, that maybe something more is going on and I should just be a little more tolerant of it or like kind or forgiving or whatever they want to say in that moment. And it is kind of cool when you hear that. All right, let's do
Definitely.
a fun one. Oh, this one kind of goes along with more of our sit down there more stuff. It's who's your favorite Harry Potter character and your favorite Bridgerton character?
I will go. I can tell you that my favorite Bridgie is Lady Danbury. I love her arc through everything. I love her so much. I just think she's the greatest. I love her chemistry with everybody, and I love like just who she is. And I love that like stomp of her cane. I'm like, I'm getting one of those when I'm old. I'm just gonna stomp around with my little sassy pants. In regards to Harry Potter, I've only watched once, sometimes twice, because I had to get fresh before the episode, you know. But like really once, and I've listened to the books once each. I have like a real like problem picking one because there's all these reasons I love Ron. There's all these reasons I'm like, there's all these reasons I love Hermione. And then I'm like basic. Then Luna's like my girl. I feel like I love Dumbledore, but I get all confused towards the end after the Black Hand stuff. I don't know. I feel too novice to make a choice there.
Yeah, Queen Charlotte is who I'd go with for Bridgerton.
Mm.
Although I like many of the characters, I would have to point her as my favorite. And the Queen Charlotte series just like cemented that because first of all, she's just a boss. I just love her. And Neil calls me Queen Charlotte, so you have that too. But yeah, I just love her character. Like I love that she's crazy and like doesn't give a F and just like puts it all out there and like she's the queen, so she do things how she wants to do them. She don't care what anybody else has to say. But then she just has this like history that's just like, oh, it's so sad. And I don't know. I just love her. I love her.
Loyal, right? Like she is like the fact that she dresses that way for him to be okay the whole dang movie is who she is.
I love her. I love her. I like a lot of the characters, but I would have to say she's my favorite. Like I feel like if you took that element away, it wouldn't be the same, I'm with Rachel. I'm too new to the Harry Potter world. I really like, I guess, Harry, I don't know. And I really like Hermione too, though, even though I can't really say her name. Yeah, I don't know.
It's not
like a lot of
barbecue
them, but
chicken baby Voldemort, I'll tell you that.
it's not baby Baltimore or full grown
Oldie,
crazy,
no.
psychotic, ugly old. It's definitely not Snape. It's not that who comes in and tries to take over the school. I hate her. I can tell you who I hate.
I'm
a lot easier than who I like. Oh yeah, Britch. Yeah, I guess I'll go with.
Oh,
Harry.
I love Hagrid. I could have said Hagrid. I love him.
Oh, I do like him too. I like him too.
On Bridgerton, I don't know. I
can't wait for these answers, Jaime. Okay, go.
What?
I can't wait for your answers.
I like Bridgerton, but I have a difficult time with it just because it's partially kind of my thing, but not fully my thing. It's a little too cheesy. Some of the decisions people make are very questionable to me, but I think it'd be Lady Danbury.
God forbid there's a romance.
It's just too cheesy for I do not like what happens to the characters after they fall in love. It's just like, but I think Lady Danbury, she hasn't done anything to majorly piss me off. I love her attitude. I love her sass. I think she would be my favorite.
Oh, wait, do you see Queen Charlotte?
Oh,
like you'll really like her more.
Oh, okay.
She's like so good.
And then Harry Potter, you guys, I always say it like it's ongoing. I will say this is from the books. Again, with the movies, I have an appreciation for the movies. There's parts of like different movies that I love. One of the movies I really love, but overall, I'm not a huge fan of the movies. But Luna Lovegood right now, currently, is my favorite character of the Harry Potter series. But it's always changing. Sometimes it's Sirius, sometimes it's Dumbledore. It's just who I'm kind of relating to in life, or who I'm kind of understanding more, or something I realize about something that makes me kind of love them more because I'm an ultra nerd. What about you, Jen?
I got nothing. I have no preference on the Harry Potter at all. Don't know half the characters.
Well,
don't.
You know Harry.
I know Harry. Yeah. I know Harry. And I know the young girl, the Emma Watson or Emma Roberts. Which one was it? I can't remember.
Watson.
And then Bridgerton. I don't know. I really like Daphne in the first one.
You know,
I really like Penelope. I kind of like Penelope. Always sneaking, writing the stories about the people.
I like Violet too, but
was just gonna say that Vi is so good. She's very good. I also quite like Kate.
I like Kate too. I just don't like just the second, the third series, which we haven't done on here yet, but I have watched season. It just kind of annoys me that they're just like la-di-da when she was like this sass, but whatever. We could talk about it.
We'll get there.
Okay. For a new mom trying to raise a child with a disability, how do you deal with the why me, why us feelings? Anyone want to go?
I don't know if I have an atypical answer because of our journey, but Steely's adopted. one of the things that Billy and I say to each other sort of as a rally cry is that we got to be hers and that she would exist with or without us. And so I feel like I can get through a little bit of the like, why us as a family in that capacity. But I get so pissed that somebody's direct choices made some of these things. So like I have not grown through all of this stuff. I don't know. I feel like holy mackerel, how are we going to do this a lot more than I feel why is this happening to us? You know?
A lot of the why me, why my daughter, a lot of that in the beginning. But I will tell you, Kate Swenton said the best thing to me one time, and she's like, "It's okay to sit in it, friend, but not for too long." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna sit in this. Then I'm gonna have to keep going." I don't know. It's an odd feeling when you kind of have that. And I still have, I mean, truth be told, when I see her next side by side to a peer or to someone much younger, and it's a grave difference, I still have those moments of, why her? Like, why? You know? But I don't sit in them as long, and I am able to be grateful for how far she's come, where we're at, and move on from it. But I still have those feelings. They don't go away. I don't think they go away. Not for me anyway.
Yeah, I think that was really hard in the beginning. And of course, when Alyssa was diagnosed, it was a different time where it literally felt like it was only me. Like it wasn't like, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't groups, there wasn't, people to follow online. We knew nobody with an autistic child. It wasn't, everybody's neighbors, sisters, cousins, friends, brothers, nephews. Like, I can't find a person that I
You mean all the
now
experts?
who doesn't know somebody, like, or have somebody in their family or have somebody close to them that they know. But at the time that she was diagnosed, it felt like it was just us. So I feel like those feelings were so, and I was also very young. So I think that, kind of like plays into that, but it does. It's just, it feels very unjust sometimes. It feels, sometimes even looking at my other 3 children and looking at her, every once in a while I can fall into that little pit that's like, it feels like her life was taken from her in a way. And if I dwell on it, I'm already getting teary now. If I dwell on it, I can get, upset about it. But I think in time you just you learn to accept it. You understand that this is your child and you love your child, and then you celebrate your child, and you go through all these, all this progress and these milestones, and these things are important to her life, and these things are, great things that she's able to accomplish. Yeah, and it's on a different scale. Like, obviously, like what, Kira's gonna be getting a bachelor's degree. She, my son got married. They have very different milestones than she does, but I feel like instead of constantly comparing them, I'm just able to celebrate her things that she's able to do, and that really helps. But I think it's very normal to struggle with these feelings. It hurts. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it broke my heart. I was just talking to Neil, I'm gonna cry again, at work the other day. He stopped by, and Alyssa has this new thing that she really loves to watch, Octonauts on TV, which she's not a TV person, and she's been able to communicate that, and that's been like really great. And Rachel went online and she found an Octonaut adventure park in England, and I'm like, oh, I was like, if she could even say or communicate like, oh, this would make me happy, I'd be in a friggin' plane to London. I'm not even kidding you. Oh, where the hell it is. I would do it. I would literally do it. But she can't express to us what makes her happy, because what makes her happy causes her so much distress. And then I start like crying, and he's like, oh, don't cry, don't cry. So it's like, you can just get, I won't cry, baby. I can just get very emotional with certain, even though that I know that to someone that doesn't seem like a big thing, but like, kids do this, even my big kids, oh, I want to go here, or can we go there? They get excited, and you want to make that happen for them. And like, she gets very upset and distressed about things that make her happy, which is just, it kind of sucks, because I want her to have that anticipation of something that makes her happy, and she just doesn't. Like, it's just, and I know that's not even like a major thing, but it's just something as like a mom that you want to like, I want to be able to do for her, because, I feel like she goes without a lot and has to sit out of a lot of things and is not going to get to experience a lot of things that like a typical person gets to experience. So I want to try to make up for that, but I can't, because anything that you say, she's like, no, no, no. But I think in time, those things, like I thought about it a lot. Every time you're somewhere and you see a typical kid, you hear typical kids talking and doing all these things that she can't do. It's very raw, but I feel like at some point you kind of stop that, like thinking about their age or thinking about like what they can't do, and you start focusing on what they're doing. And I think that helps a lot. But I think giving yourself grace about having these feelings and not letting people shame you for them and not making people make you feel bad. It doesn't mean that you don't love your child. I love my child with all my heart, but it still hurts me sometimes, not the way it did when she was young. Like Jen says, it changes over time, but
Yeah. For me personally, it's so tied to my mental health now. I think like everyone said, like in the beginning, it was really hard for me, especially we're always around a lot of family and stuff when my son was younger, and it was just clearly different from day one. Like, and
Mhm.
a lot of times it's like, why? I feel like that at the beginning, and I mean, I still get these feelings a lot. I mean, we're only at 9, but it'd be like, why can't it just be simple?
Yeah, I still have that feeling, Jamie.
Yeah. But like my mental health, like is when I'm like in a depression or going through a bad streak, why me, I always say is like my signal telling me that I actually am in a
Struggling.
depression
Mhm.
episode. And I do why me and why us, why him all the time. And it sounds so selfish to say why me. And so I hate sometimes expressing that, but I do it, but it is all encompassing of like his emotions and feelings at the same time. And as he's grown, it has become, why does he have to go through this, kind of like what Kimmy was talking about, or why does he have this trial in life? There's good days and bad days when I could handle it. There's days where like he's being so silly and cute, and I'm like, oh, he, like the cute quirky things. You're like, oh, this is just him, and I love those pieces about him. I couldn't imagine my son without those like certain autistic characteristics and things like that. And then there's days that are just really hard, or when he even says something, like just the other day we were talking, my kids do this thing which is kind of weird, but they always joke that they want to marry me. Like I'm like, oh, I love you so much, and they're like, I want to marry you, and I'm like, you can't marry your mom. Like my daughter says it, so now Jesse kind of like echoes it and says it. But the other day for some reason we were talking about, he probably saw on a Disney thing, it's like people getting married, and he said, oh, and he said something about him getting married. And that next morning I just said to him, I was like, oh, it kind of broke my heart last night. Jesse was talking about like, getting married, which to him is literally like what he sees on like The Little Mermaid. It's not like he doesn't really understand any of it. But like, and my husband just goes, sorry, this is gonna make me cry. He just goes, oh, and like immediately, like for my husband to react like that, because who knows, like if anyone's gonna get married or anything like that. But it's just a reminder of like those little things that
Yeah.
probably aren't gonna ever happen, or are very unlikely to happen. And you're just like, oh, why can't my kid just have like those things in life that everyone gets to choose whether or not they have, And so, and I don't know where Jesse's at. I don't know. Maybe that could be something that happened to him, but like the rates of that are very low. But the little things like that where you're like, oh, or, he
It's
loves
also like
cars.
wind being stomped out of a sail that's already down. When you look at Isaac and then he's like, oh, that you're like, oh God, it's really bad. He's agreeing. Like now I'm double
sad, like, and just, and we've talked about like Jesse loves cars, and like one day we're gonna have to explain to him that he probably with like his emotional regulation issues will probably never be able to safely drive a car, and like just like a lot of those like looming things in the future. But even right now, it's like when kids make fun of him, which is my hardest thing in the world right now, it just breaks my heart, because it's like, oh, like whether or not he realizes that kids are making fun of him, it's still like the most awful thing. And I just been thinking of what helps me a lot is just like realizing that a lot of people in life have trials. And sometimes I think I've talked about here, sometimes when I'm really depressed, I can't even get there. I'm like, no, but this is like going, like I'm so like panicked in it, and like it feels like the worst thing in the world for me. And I understand all the time that people have it worse in different ways, but like we all have like our trials in life, and there's just things that you can't explain why they are the way they are. And what helps me is just when I can, not all the time, but like just accepting like this is where we're at. This is who my child is, and there's beauty intertwined in that, and we'll be fine, you know, as long as we keep trying and working through everything day by day. My whole new outlook on life this year is just going day by day because I'm such a worrier about the future or about everything, and just being like, okay, let's just get through today. So
I'll often get that sharp heart pain as well when she talks about being pregnant, which we all know my daughter really, and I will just start crying sometimes because she's not going to be able to have, I mean, she's not going to be able to have children. She can't care for herself. She's not going to be able to have a child. And so that is like when it'll hit me really hard, like in those moments, like she's never going to have a child. She's not going to get married. She's not going to, I mean, she might get married before I do, but you know, the rate I'm going, but it's those sobering moments where it's like, you know, I think you can go on day to day, like this is our life, this is where we're at. And then you get gut punched by one of those moments, and just like my friend Terry Lynn, her daughter's London's 10 and she got her babysitter certificate. She's 12, she must be 12, certificate that she can now babysit. And she's 2 years younger and she's out babysitting, you know. So it's things like that where it's like, I need a babysitter for her still.
Going off what Jamie said, where like, obviously it could be worse. Like, obviously there are kids that have horrific medical conditions and, you know, these terrible disorders that are just mind-boggling and you can't even imagine for a second. But it's like, it doesn't necessarily make you feel better. Like, it almost, to me, makes me feel worse, because then I almost feel more guilty for being upset about it. Like, if that makes sense. Like, so it's like, some frames of mind I can be like, okay, like it could be worse. She's potty trained. Like, there's people that are autistic at her level that aren't. Like, sometimes I can kind of go through like the things that like I'm grateful for, but like when I think about like, oh, it could be worse, then I'm like, yeah, well, now I'm just a terrible person for feeling bad that my kid can't demand a trip to London. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or like
well, mine did.
Just
like, kidding. He didn't demand one, but he really wanted to go. And
but it's like, but it's, and I'm like, oh, but of course we showed her the pictures and she was like, no. And she started like stomping around. It was like 1 a.m. It was kind of funny. But and then she sat down on the couch and goes, Elmo, because we're going to Sesame Street Place, and I've been asking her if she wants to go see Elmo, and she said yes. But then she started saying no. So it was kind of hilarious that she just sat on the couch.
She also thinks you're bringing her to Big
like
Ben.
completely unprompted. She sat down and goes, Elmo.
She wants to go to Elmo.
Yeah, she goes, yeah, if the choice is Octonauts for Elmo.
Hey, can I tell you, when we were trying to find flights to London, some of the cheapest flights were from Boston. So just so you know, still really expensive, but still cheaper.
I go, I don't know if Rachel's like, yeah, she knows it's in England. I'm like, does she? It kind of seemed like she's like, yeah, this place is really far away and we're not doing this.
I was like, no. You have to have a passport.
Sorry, going off topic. But to me, sometimes it just makes me feel worse. Like, it just,
yes,
you know what I'm saying? It's like it doesn't even make you feel better. It just makes you feel like, of course, when you get into that like pity party type of mindset, like that just makes you feel worse, because then you feel like, you know,
or you get angry at
all the
I mean, you don't get angry at, but you get angry at that so many people don't have to deal with what that person who you're thinking of who has it worse than you does, or you're thinking about yourself, that there's people that literally do not have to worry about any of this. And that sometimes I'm like, I mean, we'll just be out like the store or something, and I'll just see a family or someone with their kid and they're just like chatting and I'm like, oh, like, and I'm sure people could look at me and my typical daughter and be thinking the same thing. So you never know what people are really going through in life. But it's like, some people just have it so easy compared, and they don't even know it.
I know.
But I was going to say, like, kind of on that same note, is like, I do sometimes, what does also help me is I think about like the little things, like, you know, like Jessie still loves watching like Peppa Pig when like these little boys who are 9 years old are running around drinking Prime and yelling at their moms about like Fortnite. And I'm like, okay. I mean, Jessie's yelling at me about other things, but I'm like, it is kind of nice that like time gets so slowed down a little bit with us sometimes, and that Jessie, you know, I mean, just complaining about Summer earlier and being with me 24/7, but I'll always be able to kind of protect my son in a lot of ways. Hopefully, if I'm around as long as I can be, like little things like that, where I'm like, there are some things that make our life really beautiful and to make our bond really great too. Anything else?
What was the question?
How do you get through the why me's?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
As I'm listening, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember answering like, oh, I don't really have that. And then I'm like, yeah, I get pissed about that too. Yeah, that's really hard. Yeah. My struggle lives within like this like we don't fit anywhere. Like, where the hell are we supposed to go? Where do we get help? What the hell? Where are all the kids like mine? You know,
Yeah. Yes.
I'm hung up there, and it's not healthy or good.
But, you know, I will say, and it's a little bit off topic, I'll try not to go on a tangent. Those were the hardest parts that I had with the friends that I have had my whole, like, you know, like since high school, and a bunch of us were pregnant at the same time. I got to the point where I could not go out for lunch with people anymore because I just couldn't hear about the things their kids were doing. And it wasn't because I was resentful that their kids were doing it. My heart could not take it. It's the side by side that's really hard.
Mhm.
You know, for her birthday, I've made it a big deal. So, and she knows the day, so there's no tricking on that. And it's harder and harder every year to rally the troops because the kids that were younger, that were okay with the Elmos and the Disney stuff, they're 10 and they're 12 and they're just, it's not, you know, I always joke that in one moment my kid can be literally watching soft porn on Bridesmaids, and then 5 seconds later she's watching Elmo. Like the contrast between the things, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
It is hard when there's like I have a nephew who's 3 months younger than Alyssa. Like, and for a long time, anytime there's a big family thing, it's like, this is what she should be doing.
She should be doing.
She should be. Yeah. And obviously, I think after a certain age, that kind of starts to like,
But then
Yeah,
it hits
'cause
you. I mean, you and I, we've been on a call with everybody, and you're like, suddenly it hit me that like she's not leaving with her driver's license, and everybody else can. Like, it's so random when it does. You know, trick or treating's like such a huge win the same year that it's like,
I think that it's
life is
like for me sometimes I'm very grateful that my other 3 kids are very close, even though there's a pretty big age difference. Kiara and Lexi are 2 years apart. They're obviously very close. They're like best friends, even though they can't stand each other. They even love each other, can't stand each other. And then my son is, a little bit older than them, but they're, they were just at his house tonight. Like they're all very close. They do lots of things together. And sometimes it just feels like she's not cast aside. Like, obviously they're not gonna take her to a hotel if they're going to a hotel, or like, she's not gonna do. It's not gonna be enjoyable for everybody or her or any of them. It's not that they're leaving her out or anything, but it's just like she just doesn't fit in with them in the same context. And like sometimes that's sad. Sometimes I'm like, well, how would it look if she were typical? Like she would be falling in between Kiara and Neil, like her age, like obviously,
you've
like,
said that
doesn't
before,
really
like-
do your brain any good to like think about that stuff because
Yeah.
it's not the way that it is. But like, sometimes you can't help it. Like if they're like all doing something or going somewhere, or like at my son's wedding, you know what I'm saying? The girls are bridesmaids and Alyssa barely made it through as a guest. So like those things are just hard. I think they're just hard parts of living with a disability, living with a child with a disability, that like you get over it a lot faster though. Like I might get sad for a few minutes and then I can kind of snap myself back. But for her as an adult, those things are hard because it's like it feels like everybody's moving on and she's kind of getting left behind, so to speak.
All right, let's do a light question now. I think
Get something fun in here, Jamie. My God.
if you had to watch one television show for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I'm going Gilmore Girls because it probably wouldn't matter what stage of life you were in. There's probably like a powerful girl going through that struggle or something parallel size within that show that's just like ends up okay. So I would say Gilmore Girls because there's such a range of peeps, but things and time and seasons. Yeah,
Gilmore Girls is kind of like Harry Potter for me, where like I won't say I relate really to anyone on the show, but I understand. Like right now I'm in my like Emily era. And I'm like, your daughter is a brat. Like,
yeah,
I kind of understand. She's even a brat. It's like a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah.
The Office or I mean, it'd probably be The Office. Right now, I've been watching Seinfeld over and over again.
Yeah.
I love Seinfeld. You guys, I love Frasier more than
Oh, I used to love Frasier.
My mom
love
loves
Frasier.
that
But it
show.
would probably be The Office for the laughs, or maybe Friends. I just like 5 shows.
Oh,
But
Friends
like,
is a
maybe-
good one.
I know Jen's. I don't even have
I've never seen any of these shows. That's so funny.
Okay.
What do you think I would pick?
I mean, I've
James?
seen Friends. I've seen Friends.
General Hospital?
Yep, General Hospital. Jamie knew. Yeah, maybe General Hospital.
I don't really know because I sometimes don't have the bandwidth to stick with one TV show in general. So,
Girl, that's so Teen Wolf all the way.
I would say Grey's Anatomy, maybe,
Mm.
or General Hospital. One of them. Kind of the same show. They use the same set.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
They use part of it. They use part of it.
I'm
right,
trying to
they're
do
both
something with a
ABC.
lot of
That's
episodes.
right.
Like a lot of episodes.
Well, so the reason I picked Grey's is because there's like 20. I mean, I haven't even finished Grey's, so I don't know. But it's like 20 seasons, so like at least
Yeah.
it'd be like a lot to cycle through. Also, General Hospital's been on since like the 70s, so that. But I'm just the type that like I like it and then I need a break from it, so I don't know if that would be my forever
I
show.
thought about like ER or like Law and Order or something where there's like changing cast. It's gone on and
Yeah.
on forever. So that, I mean, ER obviously is over. But like, but then I'd be like, man, I would be like so paranoid probably because like this is gonna happen to me. Or
That is true. That is true.
watching SCU night
that
movie.
that does happen with Grey's Anatomy for sure.
Oh yeah,
I
I could
don't
have
really
picked
know.
Dateline, but then you're right. Then you're like all creeped out by every woods and
Which I do.
dark corner just because you're effing your mind up.
I mean, yeah, or Teen Wolf. I could just look at Tyler Hoechlin for the rest of my life. I mean, I
Told
could do
ya.
it.
Yeah.
No, there's only 5 seasons though. It's not long enough.
Kimmy, it was April 1st, 1963 was the very first day the General Hospital aired.
Oh my god.
That's crazy. I'm so
gonna get that
excited that
training
Rick Lanson is coming back. Did you hear that?
He is coming back. Yeah, Rick
I'm
Hurst
so
is coming
excited
back.
about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that might bring me back. That might
Did
bring
you
me
watch
back.
it today? Christina lost the baby.
No.
But I'll let you catch up. It was sad.
Spoiler
Fell-
alert.
Yeah, I'm
Fell
like
out of a
3 years
hotel
behind
window.
you.
I mean, it's a total typical thing.
Oh,
Wait,
I
the
saw the
baby?
behind video on that.
Wait,
Yeah.
the baby fell out of the hotel window?
No,
the
Christina
pregnant
fell
lady.
out. The pregnant lady.
Oh,
She
soap
says it's
opera.
like
I'm
the
not gonna
most-
ask. Why am I asking?
12.
Why?
You know what's interesting about soap operas though is Kaya, definitely Bold and the Beautiful is her favorite. I mean, she knows, and here's the autism, and she'll be like, she'll ask Siri, Bold and the Beautiful series 27, episode
not you.
6194. And she knows them by episode numbers, and there's hundreds of them. But you know, actresses change TV shows. So Rena Sofer, who was on Bold and the Beautiful for years, is now back on General Hospital as Lois Cirillo. Ned Ashton's back and forth. Like the Hope, there's a different Ridge, there's a different Hope. There's like the characters change. So she's like calls Old Hope, New Hope, Old Ridge,
That's what I
New
did.
Ridge.
I was at Days
Right.
of Our Lives kid, and like it'd be like, oh, that's the old Carrie, that's the new Carrie.
Yeah. So it's so funny with her because
Is that
she's
the one
like,
that's Susan Lucci, James?
that was
No.
all my children. That was all my
All my
children.
children.
How could you get Susan Lucci's wrong?
I don't
mean,
do soaps and I don't do diets. So that's where I'm at over here.
I love my soaps.
If you do like soaps, I highly recommend the show on Apple called Palm Morale with Kristen Wiig. Okay, so we have a lot more questions, but we'll wrap this episode up for now. And next week we'll do part 2 of this Q&A, just because, you know, we give the most simple answers, you guys. We didn't spend a half hour on
It'll-
food.
It'll be better. Yeah, it'll be better next time because we won't have the food frenzy at the beginning and the.
But
Well,
I
speak,
actually think-
speak for yourself. I'll be dieting
Oh.
next week, so I'll be wanting to talk a lot about food.
All right, thanks everyone for listening.
Happy summer!
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Talk Like a Mother Parenting Autism podcast. If you are enjoying our podcast, make sure to rate and review us wherever you listen. And if you'd like to support us, you can become a subscriber. Just check out the description of this episode. Give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram for more content, and we'll see you next time.